All right, I wanted to click the links for BitChute, Odysee, or YouTube, or to join the Discord or the other chat rooms. Fighting retreat is pretty difficult because you got a group. Oh, the Afghan army. You can just leave them, the APCs, and they'll take good care of it. No, I mean, even I think everyone in country knew that. From what I'm hearing, like they're completely useless, and I've heard that for the past like 20 years about that group of people over there. They're very fickle and eager to change sides. Like I've heard it basically described as they fight for their family tribe much more so than they fight for an extended nation tribe, where you get situations where back in the 90s they said, oh, the elite Republican Guard, and as soon as they saw the APCs come over the horizon, they just dropped their rifles and put their hands up like, yeah, we're done. Like, what you guys, what happened to you guys? You had all these fancy uniforms. Like, yeah, we're not going to fight some team that we're not really, like, this is a paycheck. Fighting for the family is one thing, but fighting for a paycheck, I mean, for religious ideology would be the primary motive. But fighting for a paycheck is like, no, they're just going to put their hands up, take off the uniforms, and move out. So anyway, a fighting retreat is difficult if you've read your World War II books. But I think even a novice like me who has no idea about anything to do with the military would be like, okay, well, first you pull out the soft civilians, the not fighting people, fly them out, and then you look at the equipment and go, well, is it more expensive to fly this stuff out or ship this stuff out than it is to leave it here? I don't know. The cost of a tank, for sure, you pull that out. But like an APC that's already got like 10 years old, and I don't know, it might be cheaper. Like, was there anyone around that area that we could sell it to or just give it to, like a friendly force or something like this? Or ultimately, if it costs more to ship it out, to fly it out, because there's only so much room on those airplanes, you would just like coat the engines with diesel oil and an accelerant, some lighter gasoline, and you just burn the whole thing. And like once you burn the engine, once you warp the frame, you're gonna have a hard time. Like you'd coat the tires in accelerant and then coat the engine in something. You should light all four rubber tires, assuming they're rubber, and you light the engine up. It's like, I don't think you're gonna be able to use that vehicle for any fighting purpose ever again. Now you've warped the whole thing. Or there's other ways to destroy. I mean, you could literally cut the thing in half with what do they call it? Oh, I better not say the hot words on you. There's like deconstruction materials that militaries and construction teams have to cut things, like literally cut things in half. But what the Americans did with Joe Biden at the helm is freaking bizarre. Instead of pulling out like all the soft civilians first, and then like all the computers, you would destroy those, like wipe the drives and then put everything in a pit. Again, put some incendiary device, like something, you put some like phosphorus, like, okay, this is going to burn at 12,000 degrees. There's going to be nothing but ashes left. Whatever sensitive materials, like documents or all this kind of office supply stuff, it's like you destroy all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, that would be just what a novice like me would say. And then, okay, then the final stage would be like you'd have a few APCs with 50 calibers and 40 millimeters mounted up, and then you'd have to have that fighting withdrawal. I mean, it's like they're not. The thing is, the problem is like the Taliban, ISIS, they never went away, and the Afghan army, it's like they knew they were not going to put up a fight at all. So you're talking about getting the last vehicles onto the last cargo plane, and you'd have to have like A-10s and fighter jets flying overhead to escort them out and keep like suppress ground fire. But there's ways to do it. Like, yes, you could pull out of the country, getting all the gear out or destroying everything. But what Biden did was out of this world insane, to the level where even CNN and mainstream news are looking at it like, yeah, well, apparently he left $9 billion in hardware. This is some of the hardware left behind. Now, this is just an assortment of the American rifles and then the Afghan forces rifles. And then the Afghans were driving around in APCs. I'm sure they couldn't figure out how to drive a tank. That takes a lot of work. But an APC is just a diesel truck, I think. If you can drive a stick, you can. I don't even know if they're stick. They might even be automatics. I don't know, but that's pretty basic. Like a third world country can maintain a diesel vehicle because they have gas and diesel vehicles as their main vehicles. They're not going to be able to run a tank. A tank doesn't even use like a diesel engine like they did back in the day. They're using the American tanks are using aircraft engines, using air jet fuel, not even a decent diesel engine. Like I'm sure like there's tanks around the world that are using diesel engines. Anyway, they're driving around in this stuff. You go, okay, we're going to pull the military out first and leave the military hardware behind. Wait, what? Now here's the thing. There's a lot of people who are saying, oh, you left people behind. Some people are saying they didn't get notifications, which is very, very possible. But there's also a lot like, is it possible that they just wanted to stay there anyway? Or they put it off until the last moment? You know, you'll never know, because you're never going to get the truth from either side. The truth is, well, they're still there. You don't know what happened. And under Biden, like anything could have happened. And it's like, to be fair, under Trump, anything could have happened too. It's like the military, it seems like, has been going downhill for a while, since 9/11. But to leave this kind of stuff behind. So these are, wait, that magazine looks a little narrow for a, maybe it's like sideways or something for the, actually both those magazines don't really make sense. Well, maybe one's a 308 and one's a 5.56. I don't know. I'm not I'm not a gun person. So these are selling for the M4s, if those are M4s, are selling for $4,000. And the handguns, the Berettas, are selling for $1,200, and that's a sweet piece. I think that's about standard price for a Beretta M9, isn't it? I don't know. The AKs are selling for only $900, which I would take an AK over an M4. But apparently what's going on in the Middle East is they're saying that the American weapons are really well made these days. Because, I mean, the joke was like, yeah, they might be more accurate, but they kind of more learning curve to clean them. Where an AK is like, yes, it's less accurate, but it's also better for a dirty environment. But I think for $900 for a 7.62, if they're using the old ones, that would be fine, man. That would be a sweet home defense tool. Unfortunately, shipping them over, I don't know, maybe Facebook has got is shipping them over to the inner cities. So this is all the stuff. American-made weapons are in great demand. They work very well. People know how to use them. Who knew? All the stuff that's left behind. And you go, why? I mean, that's almost. I mean, is there such a thing as like being a trader is a pretty high standard, but like military negligence? I mean, I know like all these, the Biden gives the order, but then the Joint Chiefs of Staff and all these generals, don't they have to say like, okay, but let's first get stuff like anti-aircraft guns out? Okay, something like M4s and rifles, okay, you can get those anywhere in the world, like any sufficiently armed group. But something like a 50 caliber, like, well, that can shoot through a vehicle, that can shoot down light aircraft, that can shoot for a mile. That's something you'd want to make sure you either removed or destroyed. And it's like, how hard is it to destroy a rifle? You probably should put something hot in the receiver. And once you warp it, it's like you're not going to take the warp out of a precision-made machine. Or, I mean, you could literally cut it in half. There's a bunch of stuff you could do. Or you could just simply pack it up and take it with you. But the Americans, under Biden, left all this stuff behind. And the media is trying to cover for them, but you can't cover for this. Like, Biden is just taking so many L's. Yeah, they're saying, the thing is, the Taliban, they talk about the Taliban as if it's some organized group. Yeah, loosely, but it's not exactly a volunteer organization. It's like an old-fashioned Indian tribe where, yeah, the chief gave orders, but ultimately people have to go along with it. It's like you can't order people to do something that they really don't want to do because they're just going to select a new chief. And I suspect, while knowing nothing about the Taliban, I suspect the Taliban is the same thing because it's like a militia, an Indian tribe. It's not do you have a judge advocate general? You got like Sharia courts, but like, oh, it's my cousin, so okay, well, that's going to be that's, you know what I'm saying? It's like there's a reason people have structured hierarchy and like the ability to give and take orders in stressful situations is because you know and trust the people, and also you trust in the process. Where like, if you're in a American military now, where you know diversity is our strength, and you look at the general situation, it's like 2% of the population is making up 50% of the generals. It's like trust should be at an all-time low. That's what I'm saying. That's a comparison of, I guess, a 5.56 next to a 50. So you see, like, yeah, that's why you can shoot through a car. It can shoot through a light helicopter. It can shoot through a light spotting plane. Like, oh, there's a spotting plane a quarter mile away. It's like, okay, well, if you can hit it, that 50 is going to tear right through it. Or I don't think the smaller one will even hit it. Or if you wanted to take I don't know, what's a large, are there any, like, I don't know what kind of animals, I don't think there's any, like, huge thing to hunt. I don't know what you'd hunt with a 50 other than like an elephant, but I don't think there's a whole lot of elephants on the ground in Afghanistan. I think basically they're hunting other people, other tribes. Where's that going with this? God, how awesome would it be to have some of this hardware? I'm not, of course, advocating any illegal acts, but grenades, night vision goggles, ample ammunition. So that's negligent or reckless or intentional, but I mean, that's like, this is a huge L. Why is it being talked about on Zero Hedge, which is some, like, it's not really right wing. Well, I'm not sure what it is, but it's like, it's the alt media. So why isn't CNN talking about it? Oh, well, they had a brief clip. They talked about it for 15 seconds. Yeah, for one day. It was in and out of the news. It got like 10,000 views and it was done. It's like, oh, it should be a bigger deal. The war cost $83 billion, but I believe the number I heard with the gear left behind was something like $8 or $9 billion. APCs, rifles, grenades, and what do you call those, rocket propelled grenades, and like all this kind of gear, and like night vision goggles, and also what do you call, like, intel, the like their contacts, their contact information. It's like, how do you leave that behind? How do you not destroy all? Okay, we're going to take all the hard drives. We're going to put them in a pile with some phosphorus, and we're just going to melt them down. And then the building that we did business in, we're going to burn the entire interior of the building down. We're just going to coat it with accelerant and just take the whole building down. We're going to destroy everything. It's like, that should be job number one. We're going to deny the weapons to the enemy. No, Biden left the enemy. Well, I mean, they're not really an enemy anymore, but they're somebody's enemy, and it's like, they're not good dudes. Not to say, anyone in the region is good or bad, but it's like, you don't want to leave weapons in a region where people are really feisty. It's like, you got one group fighting another group. It's like, why would you leave them $9 billion with which to either sell and do harm, or just directly do harm to each other? It's like, that's incompetence. Yes, welcome to Biden. A president literally has dementia. He was elected with dementia. He had dementia under Obama. That's why he didn't run in 2016. Because I suspect he didn't run 2016 because he was getting a little sloppy back then. Like, he knew his memory was going. So he was like, I'm not going to run, and Hillary will probably have me hit if I run. So he stepped out, and then 2020, it's like there was nobody else to run who had a chance. So they said, hey, Biden, we know you have dementia, but why don't you step up there and we'll give it to you. We'll take it from Trump. Like, Trump's a big fat idiot also, but I think if you voted Biden, you got to be having some regrets right now. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys on Discord, Gab, Odysee, BitChute, or all the alternative platforms, is what I'm trying to say.